Well, you probably heard Jerry. She doesn't have my recording software installed on this machine yet, so I'm going to try to record so I don't have to do it again. I just, and you guys may be okay without doing that, but I did want to go over just to. I know I put this up there on Blackboard, and you probably took a look at it. But I just wanted to mention a few things. It was really a huge training opportunity. It really was. I didn't put it in here. It doesn't look like, but there was 5,500 people there attending that conference. Now that's a lot of people. They started that conference in 2004, and there was around 1,000 people there. So it's really grown, and actually, the conference, they started this organization called PATH, and that organization, this conference is their main money. They showed us a breakdown, it's their main money. But they did try to do these sessions so that they were in the levels, enough sessions every hour that no matter what your level of skills and no matter what your job, is that you would still be able to attend a session. And honestly, I stuck with the things that would pertain to us. You know, there were so many that had, and I know this is Oracle, but I wanted to do SQL Server just really quick. There were so many that we don't use that. We're not there to use the cloud, and there's on that Internet of Things keynote speaker that second day, they had the cloud, a picture of a cloud up there, and below it they had fog. And it was all of these applications that you can actually use to get to the cloud. You know what I'm saying? There was just so many. So many of the tracks were for business intelligence, for enterprise CBA. Very few of them actually came into there was a few HR kind of things that were in professional development, but the first speaker, the keynote speaker, and actually there were about 6 people that went across that stage. He interested me and changed some of the sessions I went to because of Column Store. And in that session, I saw how he demonstrated how much faster it was to do a query on the column rather than all the rows. Okay, so that's what that was about. So, do you know when I first started teaching Oracle, it really did have the market. That was about 12 years ago. I went back 12 to 13 years ago when I taught Oracle. And now it really doesn't. And I really believe that there's multiple reasons for that. And in fact, I talked to Mr. Randall a little bit about, we did the database track based on what we thought was the best thing to do at the time. And it was based on, honestly, he was going by Team TSI. Their CEO is on our computer science technology board. And he was telling him Oracle, Oracle, Oracle. So we put 2 devoted Oracle classes in. And I told Mr. Randall now, I said I wouldn't do that. The market's changed. Even though he is a big employer in this city, in this location, I don't know how many other companies use Oracle. Because when we went to Progress Rail, we learned that they use SQL Server. So I'm not sure there's a lot of Oracle going on. So anyway, Oracle has lost a lot of the market. Some of that is the ease of use, and you see that, of SQL Server versus Oracle. Some of it is because of the platforms, right? If you're running a Windows platform, SQL Server is going to run easier and faster and better on that because it's got all that built in. And then the security is the big one, right? The security, and we saw that SQL Server has so much better security. Oracle leaves it up to the DBA, totally up to the as does Linux, right? Linux leaves it totally up to the DBA. MySQL used to have a big following. In fact, when I read the first book on Facebook, he started out using MySQL, but not anymore, right? Because it doesn't have the security in there built in either. It's all of those open source things, they just don't. Anyway, this first guy, when I got through listening to him, not when I got through, but all the way through, I thought, what is your IQ? It was really hard to downsize to us for him. It really was. He tried to downsize to us, but he's been a DBA for a really long time. They were practical. Do you see the suggestions here? Just practical suggestions. To use the not exist instead of not in. Most of the time, all of these are performance-based suggestions. Make sure the data types, inconsistent data types will hurt performance. And we have seen that. When you run a query, you can see the visual log of how long it took it to run it, right? You remember that in Oracle. In SQL Server, a lot of the sessions I went to was for that. And then how to write date functions, and then order by. We haven't used this, right? We haven't used the at sort. So we've always used order by. And then I won't go over the DBA Mythbusters, but that was a pretty good one too. There's things that you saw that I wanted to look up again when I had time. Automatic repair can fix some problems, but use redo. Building indexes, adding extra files to the temp database can solve problems. He was real gung-ho on adding temp data, adding space to that temp file, and maybe not leaving it that way, but adding it while you're running maybe a really long query. And then I/O, this one was that the returns that you get are not always what really is the problem when you're having network problems. Checkpoint system buffer to look at the percent dirty, drop the clean, flushes the buffer property, but it doesn't flush the dirty. And I think we did that one day already in class. And then the security. This, I really thought that this was going to be a different kind of session. I thought he would go in detail about how to add the SSL layer and how to add the Kubernetes using that Kubernetes memory manager or manager, but it wasn't. It was how to manage your security using privileges and roles. And he was really good about that. But what we went over in class has been really good about how you set up the roles and the privileges for that roles, and then you add people to it. You don't just give individual people their roles. So it's just going to be more identity theft and all that. I had another hit just personally on my iPhone this weekend. Another hit on I'm going to change my number. I've had another hack on my iPhone. I don't know where it's coming from, but of course I've had it for a real long time. The user-defined server roles are new in 2012. What I learned going through was that 12 added a lot of stuff. When you see SQL Server 14 and 16, you're going to be amazed at the things that they've added, especially to 16. 16 is all about the Internet of Things and adding all of those additional applications that will help you manage your data and target your market. That's what it's all about. Just unbelievable.
One thing I was thinking about
Go ahead.
One of those things I was thinking about this weekend was, everybody's a lot of talk about the Internet of Things, like we were saying. What I was wondering is, what type of programming or programming languages will they use to program everything?
To hack, you mean?
No, to just work.
Oh.
Connect to the
Oh, okay. Actually, Dwayne, a lot of C++ is still used. C++ is used when it involves any kind of flat file processing. They use C++. In one of my sessions, there was a young DBA there, and we did a meet and greet, pass yourself around and what do you do, Miss what, and I was telling him that when I graduated with my BS degree, the first thing I did was get 2 credit cards, Sears and Penny's, and I got a loan that they would let me have with my signature, as much as they would to get some credit, because I had none. I was a poor working college student. I had no credit. And then I said, my credit report still shows those 3, and that's very aged, He said, you mean they had it back then? I said, yeah, we just did it in a different way, right? So anything with flat file processing is C++. Now, it depends on the company. TSI uses C#. But if you can program in C++, C# is going to be easier for you. I mean, it's Microsoft's version of C++, is what it is. That's what they're using a lot. Now, it's SQL, and it's command line SQL against the database. Every session I saw was doing what we do in class, I promise. They would go from the enterprise manager to the command line to illustrate everything that they were doing. And so, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I was thinking about it because everybody keeps talking about everything we want to do and other things, and I knew that we have to have some common language out there to connect to your dishwasher and refrigerator and all that.
And see, you really have to do what I do in my first programming class. When you look at the programs that are out there now, PHP, Java, and Visual Basic are still the front end for web programming. Behind the scenes, it's going to have C if it's got to do any kind of. They actually also use a plain text file, Notepad, whatever the application happens to be, Notepad or whatever it is, to maintain the state of that object as it's going through that invoice thing. They'll write that object state out and then read it back when they get to the final transaction. It's done with C. That part's all done with C. Yeah. Do you know what they're using, though, for the business intelligence? They're using Excel. They're using Excel, like similar to what Dwayne's been doing with this, the company he's interning with. In Excel 2016, and as soon as that comes out, you need to download it. Excel has always been able to do goal seek and a little bit of forecasting with business intelligence. That 2016 Excel is updated to mirror SQL Server. I promise. It is. One of these sessions on here was an Excel session. I went to that after this first keynote that showed us what they were using to everything being cloud oriented. And when I put that in here somewhere too, everybody I had a chance to ask individually, do you do your own backup and recovery? The answer was no, except one time. And that was a company smaller than Sneak. They farm it out. They farm out their backup and recovery so that it's somebody else's job to keep the state of that database backed up at any given time. And then on their own machines, then they have the time span between when it was all uploaded back up to the cloud and what happened since then before that they use the online logs to do that part. that make sense? I wish I could show you Excel 2016 like they showed it to us in the class. And I actually have a few screenshots that I made with my phone. I didn't upload them because I wanted to play with the quality just a little bit before I did. But that's what they're using. Excel has the capability in 2016. Now in 2013, Excel has the capability to import data in a limited way. When you're looking at access from the web, from text, from all of these other sources, and as I say limited, it's still from a lot of other sources. See, there's the server. When you see it in 2016, if you bought a particular cloud, you can import their software into Excel so that they show up right here. You see what I'm saying? Then you can use back and forth between SQL Server and Excel if you want to check math, or if you want to, whatever you might want to do. If you want to use Excel to upload and download from the cloud itself, let's see. Let me go. Here it is. Have you ever used, it's a Power Pivot, data from just about any source on the web? It uses the business intelligence for data analysis. It's integrated with Power Business Intelligence. Now, these are what they were talking about, the fog. This Power BI in Office, that's going to help you. If you import your data out of SQL Server into Excel, it's going to help you do your business analysis based on that data. Just plain old Excel has a limit on the number of records it can have. With this, it doesn't. It can do millions and billions of records now with this. So to help prevent data loss, then they use SharePoint. So that's all part of that fog of the cloud. It begins with whatever the business question is. Do you remember that way back in 117? And I was saying, well, if you wanted to know the manager of this and this, okay, that's the kind of questions. Then you use get data, analyze, you visualize it, publish, and consume it. It has a Power Query in Excel. It has the SQL query editor in Excel. Okay, programmer via the object model. What that means is that you can still write VBA, okay, Visual Basic for Applications, in Excel. So you can write code in Excel to go along with your database. So I didn't get to see a really good, because these demo of that, but that's what you do. He did demo the query builder, and he used the AdventureWorks database to show that, where he wrote a query right in Excel. Preventative analysis, new forecasting tools, that's supposed to be time grouping, that word right there, sorry. You can tell I was tired and I was doing it at night. You publish it with SharePoint. You send it to Office, to Power Business Intelligence. That way it can be embedded and interactive in reports done from it in blogs. Every person in the company is going to have blog, and that's where all of their business intelligence is going to be disseminated to everybody else. That may,
SharePoint to do like a company website, I guess. What you're talking about?
SharePoint is actually the website where you control the users that have access to that data. Now, I saw some sessions with Active Directory, but I've seen a decline. Active Directory is managing the users on the servers, but I saw more doing it with SharePoint, and that's one thing that Mr. Rendell agrees. If we change the database track, it's to add, SharePoint's going to be one of the things that's got to be added. It's just everywhere. So Excel is going to have its own server on OneDrive. I haven't actually, I wrote this down, but I haven't actually had the time. I don't know about you guys, but I got home upwards of 11:30 Friday night. It's not there. This person has his own website, and I'll try to figure out what's wrong with that because it didn't key in. Let me just see. Sorry. No. Okay, I've got something wrong, and I got to go back on that because I've got others there too. So that one was very beneficial to see what's new with Excel and what's coming up. Now, let's see. The security, again, this was a security one to go back just a little bit to look at, and we've done that already in the Object Explorer and SQL Server, right? The least maintenance grant permissions at the highest level needed and no more. The least services, and I'm sorry, y'all that are not in class. I'm trying to run two machines. The least services don't create extra tables. They tell you that not to do it, just not to create them. Disabled unused server protocols. There's 4 protocols: TCP/IP, the named pipe, VIA, and shared memory, and it talks about those in our book. The least privileges if they don't need it. Okay. And then the column store. It's in Server 2012, column store is, but it's not really used very much. Wait a minute. Is it in our book, column store? I'll have to look. And I'm sorry that this class has actually ended up being an SQL class instead of a 280 class. I do want to get back to 280. This one was a software that was recommended, that Flash software. Now, this is what I wanted to show you. With column store, he had a query, and I couldn't capture what that query actually was, but it was updating rows. It took 2 minutes and 19 seconds. When he did it on column store, it took 2 seconds. Okay, so in a big company environment, that would be really important. So they have to be in memory tables. It does it so fast. It's compressed. It processes it in batches, vector shaped rather than bit shaped. Now, I don't understand that right there. Okay? The reason I don't is because of the graphic design classes I've had. Images are either bit-based or they're vectors. And when they're vectors, it's based on the lines and the drawing. That's what vectors are. It's not based on zeros and ones. So I really don't know how that works, it being data. You know what I'm saying? I wrote it down, but I don't. Create the pointer to the row. It's best for integers. It doesn't do strings very well. And he gave us that about SQL Server. I had to look up max DOP. Have you saw that function? I haven't seen it, so I've got to look it up. He went through a demo that had 22 million rows. 33 gigabytes is a lot of gigabytes for a database. Can you imagine a database with 137 columns? I just could not. So it took 5 to 7 minutes. In column store, again, it took 2 seconds. He used this function, that function to do that. We don't do data warehousing. So many sessions were on data warehousing. I had been to a past in a free Saturday where they showed us how to use Excel for data mining in that one. And that one showed us add-in tools to Excel that extended the number of rows you could use. But it didn't go as far as Excel in 2016. So what that does is, that particular, using that is 700% more efficient. Now you do use the keywords in your syntax. Create, non-cluster, column store, index, and you name it on a particular data name. So the syntax itself actually has that in there. You know, if that's how you tell it, you want to use column store to return your query. The joins, honestly, didn't work as well in 2012, but are good. They updated that in 2014 and 2016. Start the query. Oh, have you done this? And I'm sorry, but have you started writing a query? You've got the query editor open on the right-hand side. You've got your table on the left-hand side. Have you physically drug your columns instead of typing them in? I hadn't either. We got to test it, because what he said was, are you going to rewrite 137, 136 if you didn't need them all? You can drag it. You can drag it from the left-hand side in the Explorer right to your query. Now, we'll have to check that, because nobody demoed SQL Server 12. They all demoed either 14 or 16. So, data management, the Internet of Things, and that was the big topic. The whole conversation, the whole last week, it's IoT, the Internet of Things, and that is taking us. Honestly, this was the coolest thing. I wish I could record it. They would not let us record. Video recordings of the sessions were like $300-something, something like that. Can't remember. The new push is that everything that has a computer that we use in our normal life and in our business life goes to the cloud. Everything. If it's a car, everything. So what it was about was what all of the new applications will need to, one example, and I didn't take the time to write it down. They showed a medical facility that automatically checked a person's blood pressure and uploaded that information to the cloud every so many, 15 minutes or something, say. So, all right. Then she gets this little alarm goes off. Something's wrong with your blood pressure. Your blood pressure is showing a systematic drop. You either need to make an appointment with your doctor or eat something or don't eat something or do something that's going to boost your blood pressure. Now that, so it's taking everything that we would use to the cloud. and managing our lives through data. Instead of turning up the thermostat, it's going to do it for you.
They'll say you walking into the room.
One of the things, books I've read was on Bill Gates' home, and you may have heard me talk about that before. He has his home already this way, so that if you're a new person to his home, you give yourself a PIN number and how you like your temperature, what music you like, all of that stuff. And as you go from room to room in that home, it adjusts itself for you. All right, that's what this was about. That's what that our lives and that we're right now. One guy said it's like if you had horses before the 1900 century, and then 15 years later, after the Industrial Revolution, you have a car. Okay, all right. So now we have SQL Server and all these databases. Now that we're trying feverishly to manage this, we're going to another industrial revolution in technology, and it's all about the internet, the cloud. And so, anyway, was a really weird. Sensors are listeners for whatever that particular device is. It's the listener to the cloud. And every device.
I've seen an article talking about this at MIT, where this doctor there, or whatever professor she's been working on it. What it is, it's a wireless system that will allow you to see through walls and to see who's behind it, and movements and everything else, without using Wi-Fi signals. And she said that there's a lot of applications that you can use that for, such as medical, monitoring somebody's vitals, stuff like that.
Right.
Of course, law enforcement, military, but.
Right. But now I have 2 doctors that has tried to make me put my medical records on their cloud. And I don't know, because I've been going to a lot of doctors since I found out what was wrong with me. But I haven't been there. I haven't done it. I haven't activated it. But it's really, if we think we have no privacy now, you wait just another 10 years. You guys are going to see things, and I say this all the time too. If you could see how we did it when I graduated from Auburn and how it's done now, that's a huge change. But you're going to see it within the next 10, 15 years. You're going to see technology really, really change. I'm not going to watch it. I'm just going to go play in the dirt. Okay. Their main thing was the consumer may use batteries. Industry has unlimited power with power supplies, right? Uninterruptible power supplies. But whatever that sensor is, whatever that instance is, it'll know it. People want to be cost sensitive. Industry wants more functionality, and they'll pay it. We're embedded. We're all going to be embedded, and we're all going to be wireless or wireless. And the main thing was that one size doesn't fit none. And that's really the truth is, and what I try to tell students is, we can only do a foundation in college, right? When you get to your company, you see how they do it. One size don't fit everybody. And even though they may have the same application or, do it a similar way, one size don't fit everybody. You see when you go to work for industry how everybody does this, and everybody does it differently. One of the ladies that I asked, she actually worked for one of the major airlines. And I said, well, do you do your own backup or recovery? She said, if it's my choice, I would. She said, it's management's decision and I don't get to. She does her own intermediate backups her way. And then she only relies on that if she has a crash or something. She still kind of jimmies around management to not do that. Right now where they're at, what they want is those predictions to be able to save lives so that you don't have that failure to learn from, that it's going to predict it before it happens. So some devices still can't connect. They did this. The complex objects like smart cars that has multiple sensors, thus multiple instances. From one device, to us it's one thing, it's a car, but to the cloud it may be 10 different things. Right? Security for all of them. The metadata itself stored in the database. We still have the problem of not enough bandwidth. And so those are some of the things. So the polybase, the fog, able to predict shutdowns, compression, encryption. What's the new skill set? And if we're already almost everybody working that wants to work, where are we going to get those workers to do that? Polybase means the Internet of Things. Now, what Brent just asked, what languages are doing this? They're building more and more into SQL Server. The SQL. More and more has been built into SQL. So the generic SQL I don't know what's going to happen there. Like the column store and the complex. So, and there's my Excel one. This one was a security devoted to Roberto's. Honestly, I learned some things, but he was above my knowledge. He tried to explain a lot of the error messages that you get are really have lots of different reasons for those error messages. I can't remember the chapter we did this, but we did this already in this class. But with this configuration manager, he showed us how to see all of the users, how to see their status, how to see what ports they're using. Did we actually see that? I don't think we actually saw that when we went through. So if we can think about it, I'd like to go back and revisit that.
It was in the chapter when you read it, so we never looked at it.
We really didn't. And when I did this session, I thought, we really need to look at that again. Brian, that works over at Progress Rail, that manages all those SharePoint servers, told me that he spends a lot of time right here. Because what he's doing is, now I don't know this in 100%, but this is what I think by talking to him. He runs different SharePoint servers. Of course, they have different products. They have Caterpillar and all of that. But it depends on the product, what database from around the world is coming to him, what he's protected. Does that make sense? Because they've got Progress Rail. If you look, they have companies all over the world, but all over the world don't do the same thing. It depends if they're in a country like, say, China or India that uses a lot of rail, they're going to be rail databases, building railroads. If it's other countries, then that might not be their focus for their database or for that SharePoint server in particular. So I wanted us to go back to this. He was saying that one of them makes you think that it's the NT software where it's really not. Some of them are actual SQL server errors. Some of them are conflicts between these two things, right? So that was the whole gist of his. Then my next one, what is in store for DBAs? And actually, they didn't tell me anything I didn't know or anything that you didn't know. All DBAs of the future will have to be concerned with the new technologies. That one lady that worked for the airline, they were still running SQL Server 2005. That's what they were still running. She said, we have planned now for a year to go directly to 14. That's what their plans are. So DBAs are worried about the next versions, keeping up with everything that's going to be happening. They didn't really tell me anything in that one that I didn't know. Now this one, that Query Optimizer, that was a wonderful session. And when you have a large number of records and a large number of joins, that's when it comes into play, the optimization. Their spaces, the parsing checks for valid syntax. And that's where you get your errors returned right away. It's in the parsing phase. In the binding is name resolutions to make sure that if you call out a column, it is in fact in that table and all that kind of stuff. The Query Optimizer builds a tree so that you can see if it has several execution phases that it has to go through, that you can see at each phase how much percentage of your processing it took up, So it was really neat. What he used, and and I've got lots of note on this. If you had a query, and then you have your join code, and then you have an if statement, that can really slow it down. So you can rearrange that whole SQL statement so that it executes quicker than you wrote it to start with, and that's what he was all about. This guy used trace flags, and have you seen that in our book? So what I did was I went out and found us a list of those trace flags. I thought I didn't. But how they're used. The reason I copied this, I didn't actually find the list, and that's what I need to do. Do you see that you can use the trace flags that show you what actually is happening in the code? And so that's another thing I wanted to go back and revisit, was the Query Optimizer, and how, now that we've already passed that performance chapter. That was 15. We just done it, and it showed us just a little tiny bit, But if you're responsible for the performance, then this is where you would go. Okay. So let's kind of regroup where we are. Do you have any questions about? I just wish several of you could have went with me. It's the first full-blown SQL server conference that I've ever been to. I've been to an Oracle one. I've been to distance learning conferences before, but I had never been to an SQL server conference. And it was really well managed, really good the way they had it. So let me just kind of backtrack where we are in 228. I have got to catch up, because honestly, I thought I might be able to do something over this weekend, and it ended up being Halloween on Saturday and a birthday party for my granddaughter on Sunday, so I didn't get anything done. I have my labs through chapter 15 put up, so today I'm going to try to finish 16 and put my labs up there. With 16, we're looking at backups. And we already know that there are different types of backups, and when you do those. One of the sessions I went to was advertising, was a breakfast where you go and listen to them do their product while they feed you breakfast. They wanted you, before you use their service, to archive databases that you were not using, right? You keep it because you think you might need it, but they wanted you to archive it. Send it up to the cloud, then if you have to, you can go back and get that archive, but take off your system the ones you're not using, so that they're not using up your space. They're not using up any of the performance. So chapter 16 is backups. We know that incremental just backs up what's changed. We have a automatic now. Dwayne and Brent have done these two, and there was an error that you had to work around, Brent.
Yeah, just changing,
Explain that.
yeah, just changing the size of the flash area. I had to do that, but Dwayne said he didn't have to change it. So.
Yeah, I had emailed you that. Maybe it's because you built more tables. Maybe a lot of things could be that, right?
Yeah, that's the one I had to do also. So
Yeah.
that,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Uh-huh. Well, Brent went back and increased the size of flash recovery. Is what he did. And then after you went through that, you left it. You left it. Okay. All right. So that's 16. Then 17 is recovery. In this area, I really, really wish that we could get someone who does it in a company to walk through, even here at SNE, to walk through and explain what they do. Did, uh, Dwayne, did you have an error in 17? I looked at those submissions real quick this morning. It was in 16. Oh, okay. All right. The error you had then relates to the flash recovery size too. Then it's a different error. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay. Just the file path then. What about in the recovery? Was that pretty straightforward? The recovery. Do you know what one DBA told me? He said that backup and recovery is too critical for them to leave it to us to chance. That's what he said. That's what he said to me. And I think I interpreted that to mean that we're all human, and as such, human makes errors. And if they can contract this out for a reasonable amount of money, they're willing to contract out these two chapters to somebody else and pay them to do it. Yeah, it is critical. Backup and recovery, of course, is critical. And I think we've talked about here at SNE during registration, our backups are hourly. They're done hourly because the registration is so critical. A couple of semesters, we had some problems. It went offline for like a day one time, just a couple of semesters ago. And then one time it dropped a bunch of students. And you can yourself, if you thought you had a planned schedule for a semester and then you got to class and none of your classes were there, you'd be kind of mad. So that's happened here at SNE. Okay. So we have, after we've got 4 chapters left in the book. Some of you are further ahead than others. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't put 19 in. Moving data is the last one. If you're on LinkedIn and you join the DBA group, you see all kinds of back and forth with people there about moving data, bringing data in. That was one of the lady that had said to me, we're using 2005 and now we're going to upgrade to 2014. That was her biggest concern, is the data itself from that to now. She thinks that they may have to go to a version in between to bring the data into that new version, and then from that version into 2014. They haven't tested it. She told me that. She said, we've been making all these plans, but we haven't tested it. So how do you actually move that data, or from one version to another, maybe? And I haven't looked at 19 to see if that's the whole gist of 19, but we saw that Excel brings it in from a lot of different sources. We'll use SQL Server to see how we can bring it in. If that data comes in from an automatic source, a web form, it's there. Now you have to worry about, like Dwayne did, that it's good data, right? But rarely, if there's a lot of data, is it keyed directly. Is that a true statement? You see, so that's why that part's important. We actually have 4 weeks in the rest of the semester. Gosh, I got a zillion things because I've had to get caught up with a zillion things this morning. So actually in this class in SQL Server, even though we've been out for a couple of weeks, you guys have kept your work going, so you're good. We've got these 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks in November, and then we take a week off for Thanksgiving. You guys do. Now we're actually here Monday and Tuesday that week. The instructor, not Wednesday too, right? Just Monday and Tuesday. I believe just Monday and Tuesday. I'll have to look at my schedule. So we're off for Thanksgiving, and then, in fact, this next week is the last week of class. Okay, and I guess you've seen that I put all kinds of things in to try to put in a few exams through the semester. I haven't. I don't think we'll do a final or anything like that. What I was saying to you guys was, I'd like for, if we do anything that last week, I'd like for us to do a practice quiz in both classes, in Oracle and in SQL Server, for all of us, for me too. The practice quizzes that I have taken in the past are a learning experience. So I want us to look for a free one. You remember in this class, I have it on a CD. But Lord help me now, I haven't moved anything from my office over here except my book. But I'd like for us to do a practice quiz and let that, you may not be ever going to take an Oracle or a SQL Server certification test, but it's part of the curriculum that the state wants us to do. And I believe if you take those practice quizzes in any subject, it prepares you for a practice quiz. Who was I talking about that with? It might have been in 280, because in the security class, it's all about security certifications. But I made the statement to a student that I believe most computer science technology students do an A++ certification before they do any others, depending on what they're going into. Do you think that's a good, you know why I'm saying that? So many students are networking students, and A+ comes before networking. Then A+ now has an A+ security certification. So anyway, that's what I'd like for us to do. If you guys have free time and you want to scour the internet to find us a real good one that's inexpensive, I have taken an Oracle one before. I didn't do as bad as I thought I would. I didn't actually pass it, but I was just a few questions away. And it was a real Oracle certification quiz at that time, and we were using version 9i at that time. So they all give you a scenario. A lot of not all the questions, but all those certifications that I've had give you a scenario, and they give you 2 right answers at least. Sometimes it's 4 right answers, but you've got to pick the best right answer. And I promise you this too, I went to a training session at New Horizons in Birmingham, and at that time it was on networking, and I can't remember. Uh, there was a guy in that class that he was bad mouthing the networking certification. That time it was Novell. That tells you how long I've been teaching. Novell's not even used anymore. He had been a Novell network administrator for like 15 years, and he disagreed with their questions. He disagreed with their right answer. I'll never forget it in that class. Okay, but anyway, any other comments or things? Okay. Oh, I appreciate you guys coming today, and we'll go on. I know I didn't cover what you guys are ready to go tonight. 18. You guys are ready to go to 18. So take a look at it and see what you think. And we'll go from there. I'm going to be here the rest of the semester in this lab. I'm not gonna go back. I mean, why? It's just only 4 weeks. I just don't really think it would be worth it to mix up the classes again. Lab, multiple lab. We're just going to be here for the rest of the semester. Yeah. Well, y'all have a good rainy day and Monday. Thanks for coming, and I'll